In my opinion, confidence is knowing your purpose and knowing that you're going to go and accomplish that, and you're going to pick up the time, the energy, the resources on the way there with the people that are going to help you accomplish your goals. And that confidence doesn't come from just, hey, all of a sudden a light bulb goes on and I have now got all of the confidence in the world. It takes steps in order to get there.
All right, welcome back. I'm Jason Andrus.
I'm Colter Hansen.
And this is the Massive Passive Income Show. So I'm excited about this episode. And Colter's going to lead this one out because he's saying a word that I don't even know what it means. So so let's go. Right. Which happens quite a bit with Colter and me.
But we come to terms.
Colter and I should say, right?
So we had some feedback from somebody that wanted to talk about confidence and kind of the steps of being able to develop a greater amount of confidence in maybe it's pulling the trigger on doing deals. Maybe it's just simply in the communication styles that they have.
Or maybe just your presence about you
and
to be confident,
and just
right?
Overall confidence and presence. Yeah, for sure. So as I think about confidence, and there's a difference between being a jerk and call it cocky, right? And then you have somebody that's confident that just simply has a presence of they know what they want, but they're not going to be bulldozing over people or diminish what somebody else is, or try and make it so that they're the only ones that can ever win,
or put somebody down to make them look better. That's somebody that's cocky,
absolutely,
and not confident. Yeah.
So in my opinion, confidence is knowing your purpose and knowing that you're going to go and accomplish that, and you're going to pick up the time, the energy, the resources on the way there with the people that are going to help you accomplish your goals.
Love it.
And that confidence doesn't come from just, hey, all of a sudden a light bulb goes on and I have now got all of the confidence in the world to accomplish everything that I ever dreamed of. It takes steps in order to get there. And there's this concept of recency bias, and it seems like I've used concept a few times in our last episodes, but recency bias.
So that's the word I didn't know. So just everybody, I knew what confidence meant, just so everybody knows.
He was confident that he knew what confidence was.
Yes. It's the recency bias. Bias?
Recency bias.
Okay, that's awesome.
So recency bias is basically, what is it that has happened in the most recent events in my life, and what are my biases that are being developed that help me make my next decisions?
Ooh.
And so as I think about the past, let's call it 10 decisions that I've made, and where those decisions have gotten me today, I'm going to be biased as to what I allow for my next decisions to be.
Okay.
And so if I have had 10 wins in the last 10 decisions, I am going to be confident that I can allow myself to go and win for the next 10 decisions.
Yeah, or at least the next one.
Or at least the next one. And so the recency bias is also saying on the flip side of that is, if I have failed over and over and over and over again, I'm going to then have a bias that, oh man, I just don't think that I have this figured out. And so if we're trying to develop confidence, if we're trying to say, hey, you know what, I can make good decisions, start with something so small that allows for you to go and develop that confidence in succeeding.
So like small wins.
Small wins, right? It's, hey, you know what? I know that I need to brush my teeth every single morning. And I am now going to brush my teeth every single morning. We recently talked about making our beds.
Yeah.
Right? If I can make my bed every single morning, and even though that is a very small thing, and it should take us maybe 45 seconds to get that done, does that feel like a win? And then we step up to bigger decisions, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to go to the gym, right? And even if I end up at the gym for 15 minutes, I have now won because I completed a task that's important to me.
So can repetition and consistency help out your bias?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's the small wins, the small consistent wins that allow for us to feel like, hey, you know what? I have recently succeeded in this list of things.
Yeah.
And then when we start to go into something a little bit deeper, like if I'm pulling a $500,000 trigger, I'm buying an investment property or a business, or, pulling a $5 million trigger, that right there, I have to be so confident that I'm going to be able to pay that $5 million off.
Yeah.
It doesn't start at the $5 million point.
Yeah.
It starts at the $50,000 point in real estate, or my first deal was $25,000.
Yeah.
And me having won in that one deal allowed for me to then buy a $106,000 property, and then a $250,000 property, and then another $250,000 property. And then I lost those two $250,000 properties. At least I lost my investment. I had to give those away and lose my shirt, but I still had these other wins in front of me that says, hey, you know what? My track record is 3 out of 5.
There you go.
And so now I'm going to go to number 6 to 10 to 20 to 50 and above, right? Is because I have allowed myself to win in small degrees in the hope that I can reach something bigger than where I started.
So, and I already know the answer to this question, so I'm going to do some rhetorical. So, could education, being educated on a process, could that help out your confidence?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But why? Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Why does that help us?
Well, it helps you be more confident in the process. Helps you be more confident in what the process is, I think for me anyways. Yeah. And then once I do something too, I realize once I do it, the next time I do it, it's going to be a little bit easier. Like the other day I did a presentation, and I wasn't planning on doing the presentation last Thursday, which is a little workshop that we do. And my business partner, Kendall's like, hey, I'm coughing like crazy. I can't do it. Can you do it? And I was like, sure, no problem. And one of the other people were there, and he's like, you weren't planning on doing this presentation? I was like, no. And you just said, no problem? And at the point, I was like, no big deal for me, but it was a lot different when I asked the very first time 20 years ago to get up on stage and do a presentation. I was scared to death. And I think I only got like half the stuff out of my mouth, and the other half I think I just mouthed and nothing came out. Like that's how scared I was. But then you do it again, you do it again, you do it again. And now it's not that I'm cocky, that I'm just confident that, hey, if I know the content, I can present it and I can do it, and I can do a good job,
Yeah, and so we have to allow ourselves to win.
Yeah.
You know what? That first time sounds like when it was 50-50 of whether words were coming out of your mouth or not. You had to allow for yourself to fail 50% of the time so that you could win the other 50% of the time, and then you could increase your ratio that says, hey, I'm doing good 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%.
Yeah. One of the things a professional speaker I talked to one day, and I'm like, how do you get so good at what you do? In fact, it was Gary Gunderson. And he goes, do you know how many times I've presented that presentation in front of a mirror, in front of nobody? And I'm like, no. He said about 100 times. That one that he did last year, not this March, but the March before, where he did the 4 different people he was imitating and he's driving a car. Do you remember that?
I don't think I was.
Oh, you weren't at that one.
No,
Oh, anyways, it was brilliant. I'm like, how in the world did this guy make that happen? He goes, I did that 100 times in front of nobody. And then he said, I did it in front of my family. Then I did it in front of a few colleagues until I came here to do it. And I'm like, wow. So he had the content, he had what he needed to do, but to be confident in front of the room so he could execute it, he had to practice and be consistent and know his stuff, which is knowledge, education, and then practice. And I think sometimes we can have that confidence by practicing something also.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we can also learn from other people's wins, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love about education and mentorship. And, in listening to content like this, like we hope that we are delivering content that allows for people to win by applying the principles that we are teaching.
Definitely.
Because if we learn principles and then we never apply them, such is life.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be in the same spot you were before you spent the time listening to something like this.
Yeah.
But if we allow ourselves to relate with the wins that other people are experiencing, and then we are able to then reconfigure and redevelop our bias toward winning and succeeding at that very thing, then we can change our recency bias of, hey, you know what, I've lost 10 times, or I've lost the recent 2 times or the last time. Now I can say, hey, you know what, Jason's winning at this thing. He's given me the steps of winning at that very thing. I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to execute. I'm going to go and create that thing, and I'm going to rinse and repeat and do exactly what Jason told me to do. Now we've got a win under our belts. We'll go do it the next time.
So somebody's out there listening to the show. They're thinking, man, I want to be more confident. And they really don't give you what they want to be confident about. They just want to be more confident as a person. What's some steps they can take to start on that path to be a more confident person? So when they walk into a room, they don't hide in the corner. When they walk into a room or they talk to somebody, they try not to look them in the eye, or they try to look someplace else. How does somebody come from being timid and not feeling confident and not feeling powerful to being confident and being assured of who they are and what they are and where their place is?
Yeah. Well, I like that you use the example of somebody standing in the corner and not networking or communicating with somebody. It's amazing how many times I'll go up to a person and shake their hand and say, hello, what's your name? Like, what brought you here and why are you here? And, what's your profession? And because that person right there is thinking the same thing I am. Like, I don't know anybody here. Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. You know what? Maybe I'm just going to go load up on hors d'oeuvres and hopefully nobody notices. I'm just going to go sit at my table and hope that the presentation starts really soon, because if I have to talk to anybody, maybe I'm going to fumble on my words and somebody's going to not like me.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're thinking about that first impression. But if you say, hey, you know what? I don't know your name. Can you tell me what your name is? And then you have the opportunity to meet somebody that was probably thinking the exact same thing you were.
Definitely.
And all they were hoping for is, I want to meet one person that I can relate with that will allow for me to just feel like I belong here.
Yeah.
And if you will allow for somebody to feel that, and they'll feel that from you, you can make a friend for life.
Definitely. And I love what you said. Just make a decision, right before you go to an event. If you're a person like, man, I'm just not very confident. I don't even know why I'm going, because I don't talk to very many people anyways. I'm scared to talk to somebody. Make a promise to yourself. When you walk in there, I'm going to introduce myself to 2 people. Don't say the whole crowd. Don't say I'm going to work the room like nobody's ever worked the room. Like that's not you. But just make a goal. I'm going to introduce myself to 2 people. Not meet 2 people. I'm going to introduce myself to 2 people, because that's you going out of your way, shaking their hand, saying, "Hey, my name's Jason Andrus. What's yours? What brings you here today? What did you like best about the presentation? Whatever it is, wherever you might be. What'd you think of those hors d'oeuvres?" Some way to strike a conversation and get them to talk to you. And here's one of the things that my wife is brilliant at. She's one of the best networkers I've ever seen. She can work a room like I've never seen anybody work a room. And one of the things that I've watched her do is she tells people, they say something that I teach at such and such school, or I'm an engineer out at the site. She says, tell me more about that. And it's amazing. It's amazing. People love to talk about themselves. Yeah, they do. And I don't know if you've ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People, but that's one of the things. Listen more than talk. And it's amazing. The people, they meet my wife within 10 minutes. They're like, I've got a new best friend, because she makes it all about them. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about that. Wow, that must be awesome. And so how did you do this? Tell me more about that. And so people are just talking. And I'm like, how in the world does she do that? And so I tried to implement that in different things. So if you're one of those people that are just like, man, I want to be more confident, make a goal when you come into a room. I want to introduce myself to 2 people. 2 people. And if you're done with 2 people and you want to do any more, don't do any more. Then set a goal in the next time to introduce yourself to 3 people, or maybe do 2 again if 2 was scary. So it's just little things, consistency. And then if there's a topic you want to be confident about, then what do? We just learn everything, right?
We learn everything.
Everything. My son was going out to sell solar. He's like, Dad, I know nothing about solar. I said, whose fault's that? Well, they didn't train me or anything. I'm like, whose fault is that? I know what you're going to say. It's mine. I was like, you have access to the internet. When I was in school, I had to go to the library and get an encyclopedia to learn anything. I said, right at your phone, you've got billions of pages of encyclopedia. I would learn everything there is to learn about solar. So with your lack of experience, you can overcome with what you know and your knowledge. I want you to be spouting off all sorts of statistics about solar this and solar that, and people that have solar are 10% happier than people that aren't. I mean, whatever you can learn it and use it. And it was funny. He dug into it in his first week in a hard sell thing. He's doing really good, because he's like, when people are dinking off, he goes, I'm learning more about what I'm selling. And he goes, it may not even be the same solar company, but just learning about the product. That's how he's gained confidence, is the knowledge.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this. I think I think that even just walking through it and thinking about networking, I can do a better job.
I can too.
I'm going to walk into my next event. And I'm going to think I'm going
to introduce myself to two people.
That's all I need.
Because sometimes I walk in and not to toot any horn, because I have no horn to toot. But a lot of the places I go, people already know who I am, because usually I'm either doing the presentation or I'm teaching the presentation. So a lot of people know who I am. But I take advantage. I don't put myself out there because of that. Mm-hmm. And when you were talking and we said introduce two people, I'm like, I'm going to do that. Every event I'm into, I'm going to find two people I don't know. I'm going to go up, introduce myself to them, find out who they are, and then ask them more about themselves. Yeah. I had a good buddy that says 3 things people love to talk about: family, what they do for fun, and what they do for work. That's the 3 things: family, fun, and work. Or work, fun, family, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
But people love talking about their family. People love talk to you about what they want to do for fun or what they like to do for fun. And then what do you do for work? And some people are like, man, I hate my job. Then just switch to the family and fun. Because you want to keep it positive too. So yeah. I'm setting a goal. You're setting a goal too? Two people?
I'm going to go meet 2 people.
All right, 2 people. Ryan is also. All right, 2 people. Introduce yourself.
Okay, well, there's so much to learn here, and honestly, I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
We're gonna take some things away from this. We learn from each other.
Yeah.
Right? Jason knows things that I don't know, and I know things I think that Jason doesn't know. Right? But I'm just not in that head, and that's okay.
It's a good thing.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in.